The year is 2025 and the world's eyes are fixed on Washington, D.C., where the air is thick with anticipation and uncertainty. A political storm has erupted in the Oval Office, sending shockwaves through the corridors of power and across the globe. Donald Trump, back for a second term, is shaking up global trade with a fresh wave of aggressive tariffs, determined to rewrite the rules of international commerce. His focus is clear: the BRICS nations, a powerful bloc challenging Western dominance, with India now caught in the crossfire of this escalating economic battle. Tension stretches from New Delhi to Wall Street. This isn't just another trade spat, but a clash of economic titans, with stakes higher than ever before. On one side, Trump wields tariffs as weapons, using executive orders to disrupt supply chains and pressure foreign governments. On the other, Prime Minister Modi must defend India's future, balancing national interests with the need to protect millions of jobs and maintain economic growth. The old days of handshakes and photo ops are gone, replaced by economic brinkmanship and tense negotiations behind closed doors. The post-Cold War order, where the US and the dollar reign supreme, is unraveling before our eyes, as new alliances form and old certainties fade. Nations are scrambling to shield themselves from Washington's unpredictability, forging new partnerships and exploring alternative currencies. This isn't about steel or textiles, it's about who gets to write the rules for the 21st century, and whose values will shape the future of global trade. Ironically, Trump's protectionism is accelerating the decline of American dominance as other nations adapt and innovate to fill the void. Real people are caught in the crossfire: Indian workers facing uncertainty, American consumers paying higher prices, and businesses on both sides struggling to adapt. Skilled professionals now face steep visa fees and tighter restrictions, making it harder to chase opportunities and build bridges between nations. These aren't just numbers. These are livelihoods at stake, families worried about their future, and dreams put on hold. The stage is set for a conflict that could reshape the global economy for decades to come, with consequences that will be felt in every corner of the world. In the summer of 2025, the Trump administration didn't just talk tough, they built an economic wall, imposing sweeping tariffs that targeted BRICS nations with unprecedented force. The world watched as the US drew a new line in the sand, signaling a dramatic shift in global trade policy. The message was unmistakable: challenge the supremacy of the dollar, and you'll pay a steep price. It was a warning shot to any nation daring to question America's financial dominance. Steel, aluminum, textiles, gems. Overnight, Indian exports faced a crushing 50% tariff. The impact was immediate and severe, sending shockwaves through India's export-driven economy. But this move was less about protecting American jobs and more about clinging to a fading sense of global power. It was a gamble, one that risked alienating allies and partners alike. India's industries, from Tirupur's bustling textile mills to Surat's world-renowned gem cutters, were thrown into sudden crisis. Factories slowed, workers faced layoffs, and uncertainty gripped entire regions. Exemptions for pharmaceuticals and microchips offered small mercies, but for most, the damage was already done. The ripple effects spread far beyond the factory floor. India, once seen as a strategic partner and rising ally, now found itself treated as an adversary. Diplomatic ties frayed as trust gave way to suspicion. The tariffs backfired spectacularly, uniting the BRICS nations against a common threat. What was meant to divide instead forged new bonds of cooperation. Instead of isolating its rivals, the US gave them a powerful reason to cooperate, pushing them closer together in defiance. Trump tried to build a fortress out of tariffs and threats, but in doing so, he fueled the construction of a new world order, one that no longer revolved around the US. The global mood had shifted. Capitulation was no longer the only option. Resistance and unity became the rallying cry for nations once divided. The seeds of a new economic alliance were sown, promising a future where power would be shared, and the world's balance would never be the same again. India faced a dilemma: retaliate and risk a trade war, or seek a smarter path that would protect its long-term interests. The stakes were high, and every move was being watched by the world's major powers. Instead of reacting impulsively, Indian leaders weighed their options carefully, understanding that a single misstep could have lasting consequences for the nation's economy and global standing. Modi's government chose strategic patience and diplomacy over escalation, signaling maturity and confidence on the world stage. India clarified: its goal wasn't to dethrone the dollar, but to create a more stable, multipolar system that could withstand future shocks and benefit all participants. Even after the tariffs, India focused on dialogue, not confrontation, keeping communication channels open and emphasizing mutual respect. Behind the scenes, India deepened ties with BRICS, exploring alternative financial systems and building new alliances to reduce vulnerability. The message to Washington was clear: India prefers partnership, but it is not dependent, and it will always protect its own interests. India's dual strategy, public calm, private diversification, helped absorb the shock and reassured investors and citizens alike. Trade in local currencies with the UAE and Russia continued, signaling India's intent to chart its own course and reduce reliance on any single power. Modi's tightrope walk balanced immediate crisis management with long-term sovereignty, showing that India could be both pragmatic and principled. India refused to be bullied, but also avoided reckless retaliation, demonstrating a new kind of strength rooted in restraint. The world watched as India played the long game, adapting to disruption with a blend of caution and innovation. This was a new era of global politics, measured, strategic, and quietly assertive, where emerging powers could shape the rules. India's response set a template for emerging powers facing economic coercion, proving that resilience and diplomacy can go hand in hand. While Trump's tariffs grabbed headlines, India quietly pursued de-dollarization. The goal wasn't to topple the dollar, but to create options, resilience in a volatile world. India inked deals to settle trade in rupees with the UAE and continued rupee-ruble trade with Russia. These weren't just symbolic, they built new financial pathways immune to US pressure. India moved cautiously, aware of the dollar's stabilizing role. It refused to swap one foreign currency's dominance for another's, declining to pay for Russian oil in yuan. The aim: carve out a space for the rupee, on India's terms. Building trust in a currency takes time, but India was laying the groundwork. The rupee gambit was about slow, steady progress toward economic independence. US-India trade tensions are part of a bigger story, the world's gradual move away from the dollar. The dollar's share of global reserves has dropped from over 70% to 47% in 2025. Nations want control over their economic destinies, wary of the US weaponizing its currency. Russia and China lead the de-dollarization charge, trading in rubles and yuan, building their own payment systems. Brazil and Saudi Arabia are joining in, settling trade in local currencies and exploring digital platforms. The expanded BRICS bloc, now including major energy producers, adds momentum. Each non-dollar transaction chips away at the old system. The dominoes are falling faster. This is no longer a theoretical shift. The world is building alternatives, one deal at a time. The era of unquestioned dollar dominance is ending. As the US turned inward, BRICS nations drew closer, forging a new financial order. No longer content to play by others' rules, they began building their own system. The boldest move: a proposed BRICS currency, the unit, backed by gold and a basket of member currencies. This asset-backed approach challenges the fiat dollar system. BRICS nations hold over 20% of global central bank gold, giving the project weight. They're also developing BRICS Bridge, a blockchain-based payment system to bypass SWIFT. The goal: insulate trade from US sanctions and create financial resilience. Challenges remain: diverse economies, political differences, and skepticism from the West. The dollar's dominance won't vanish overnight, but intent has shifted. BRICS is investing real capital and technology in alternatives. The world is watching as a new financial architecture takes shape. The old order is being challenged from the ground up. By autumn 2025, the world stands at a crossroads. Trump's tariffs haven't forced submission, they've accelerated global realignment. India's careful diplomacy and diversification highlight a new playbook for emerging powers. The US risks isolating itself, even as it tries to defend its dominance. The H-1B visa policy could cripple key sectors and drive away talent. By pushing others to seek alternatives, America is hastening the dollar's decline. For BRICS, the crisis has spurred deeper cooperation and real projects like the unit and BRICS Bridge. The dollar remains dominant, but its supremacy is no longer assured. The events of 2025 will be remembered as the moment the global order began to shift. The tremors are only beginning.